I'm looking forward to this game.
So have you ever done this before? Have you
Played
ever
Connect
played any game while being interviewed?
I don't know. I don't know if I have.
I'm discovered it's super hard.
Okay. So I'll be as ready as I can to be
These questions
confused.
are so difficult. It's okay. It's all right.
We're very serious.
No math questions.
Oh, God. I don't ask anything I can't answer.
Exactly. I'm a college dropout. Lower your expectations.
Actually. Although I went for art, so there you go.
Well, you know why I dropped out of college.
She dropped out of college to go to clown school.
No way.
Reading about it, environment daily studies.
How is that what you're talking
And what do you do now without Barnum and Bailey around? Do you do other
Well, I have
clowning?
long since retired before with the circus folded, which, for the record, I stayed in bed and cried when that happened. I run YATL with Vanya, and I also write. My book is Fall 2019 Source Book.
Awesome.
Mass Disturbance, which is basically a girl version of American Girl.
Cool.
Your nemesis.
Well, we'll find out after tonight if there is one. I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, let's begin.
Okay, so first question. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, don't tell us. Tell people who are going to be watching. Because we know who you are. We love your book. But for those who don't know who you are, your book, and your current book, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I just realized that I made a false move. I should have made another move. This is how the game goes. I'm learning quickly how this goes. All right.
Fun having a nemesis, right?
I'm now
only as good as their nemesis.
Oh, all right. Well, that's an important fact to know because in my work, I actually am writing books that are YA contemporary realism, where there are no real heroes. In fact, because sometimes I think heroes are things that we create because we feel like we need them, but I want to write stories about people who have more often than not been propped up by society and need to be taken down a peg or two. And like in Tradition, like in All American Boys, also true in The Gospel of Winter, my first book, where there are characters who are accustomed to getting away with things.
What about love story?
Well, actually, love story I feel like is a little different.
Yeah.
And it's also...
It is a little bit of a hero, I imagine.
Yeah, and oof, I almost lost in like 2 seconds.
You get to play me, it's okay. I guess
so. But it's true. There's I really worry about that book sometimes because it gets lost in the mix. But it's one that means the most to me because it's. Thank you. I took a real wild adventure with my grandfather who was dying of Alzheimer's disease. So. Yeah.
That was a good one.
Thanks.
So, tell us a little bit about Tradition.
Isn't this hard?
This is so hard. Tradition is not based on the song. It is. Tradition is a novel about two teens who are trying to navigate the deeply misogynistic traditions at a boarding school. One young woman who is a social justice warrior, smart, independent, confident, thinks she's above it all. And then at the beginning of her senior year, when she's socially isolated for the first time, realizes that she's not above it all. She might fall prey to some of those very traditions. And then the other half of the story is about a boy who is starting his postgraduate year there at this Fullbrook Academy. And he is suffering from tremendous guilt and shame because the year before he was involved in an act of violence on the football field that had devastating effects for another kid, and he's realizing at the beginning of this year that maybe he's been cultured to be a violent machine. And he has to review what it means maybe to be a man and an athlete and someone who's accustomed to getting away with whatever the heck he wants to. I'll give you a point if I do that. Oh no! Give nemesis. Now I see how this goes. This is really hard. What? This is wild.
See, doing two things at one time is really hard. So speaking of that, how different is it to write with a co-author than it is to write alone? Like, how different is your process?
Yeah. So the writing All American Boys was. I just went, by the way, so it's your turn.
Yes.
Okay, so
Thinking so hard.
yeah. So, writing All American Boys was a spectacular. It's like one of the most exciting moments of my career for so many reasons. One of them was that Jason and I got to like trade our game back and forth. Mm-hmm. And part of the joy I feel like of co-writing, I would imagine you have some feelings about this too. As you see your partner doing something, you're like, oh my gosh, I can pick that idea up, or that something from that, and use it in my half of the book too, or whatever. And we did a lot of that.
Thanks for that moment.
Yeah, exactly, like teeing up a character in some way or whatever.
Exactly.
Which was so fun. And then writing alone though has some of its own then like terrors, because it's like, oh my God! You're on your own. Like every mistake is mine.
You can't be like Jason. They're really concerned about your chapter.
Right, exactly.
Who can help you?
No, this is you've tracked it in so many ways. So okay, the urge.
This is a great battle here.
This is really a lot of fun. I haven't played Smash 4 in years. Maybe we need to do this as like, I don't know, do you ever do like writing, like tee-ups that have nothing to do with writing?
No.
Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite things, and I feel
Go on.
people don't often talk about this, but
No.
if people talk about, when you sit down to write, you have to have like a cup of coffee and like quiet space and all these things. I like to do active things. So my tee-ups more often than not are like I'll go for a long walk, or I'll do some exercise, or I'll cook a meal, or I'll do the dishes because we should have done them like 2 nights ago. In order to make that cup of coffee, you got to clean the kitchen first.
Do you have children?
No, my wife and I hope to be so lucky one day.
You can have mine.
Hey! You want to come to New York?
Yes!
He's 12, he's used, but he's in really good condition.
Nice one. Like most of the clothes I bought for most of my life.
Let's go.
Yay!
I love New York. So what's your favorite thing about New York?
That's where I met my wife, for sure. And she's a born and bred New Yorker. Grew up on Christopher Street, right by Stonewall, famous Stonewall riots.
Does she have a beautiful New York accent?
No, she sounds like she's from the Midwest. It's hilarious.
Oh, wow.
And she's really soft-spoken, not like, the New York of the 70s movies, like,
Those are my favorite.
I'm walking in! Like, she doesn't know that.
So she's not Dustin Hoffman.
No, she's not.
You were so close to meeting Dustin Hoffman.
1 degree separation.
Whose turn is it, by the way?
Yours.
It's yours.
I can't go where I want to go. This is going to give you
The worst.
Give me some.
Still recording
wins.
Yeah, good job.
Well, then.
Okay, so this book is about tradition. Crappy traditions. What is your, you've traveled, you've been around, what is a tradition that you've come across that you're like, sucks?
Yes. So I'll tell you, the tradition that is the plot of the novel tradition hangs on comes from real traditions that are still going on in boarding schools across the country, where there's a winter ball or a semi-formal or a prom or whatever it is, and seniors take the first years. The idea is that the first years don't know anybody, and it's nerve-wracking to try to come up with a date. Mm-hmm. But what it becomes, especially when it's senior boys taking first-year girls, an opportunity for the boys to abuse their position and their power and prey on the girls. And what disgusts me is that is still a tradition in some places.
Yeah.
That disgusts me. I just think that's an honored and time-honored tradition in places, and so that's one of the ones that disgusts me for sure.
It's funny. I actually come from a culture of that tradition. Obviously, we don't do that anymore. But I'm Creole, so we used to have in New Orleans a thing called peace laws, the peace laws.
Yeah.
And so, since the Creole culture is a very heavily biracial culture, what would happen is that women of color, and this was back when slavery was still going on, because there was no slavery in Louisiana, people were free because Louisiana churches, and so men who had black concubines, women who they had homes with and raised families with and did all of that, and then they'd have like a separate home with their actual wife. So they'd have these black wives in the quarter, and then they'd live out in the countryside with their actual married wife. They would come and do this thing called feast balls, where they would basically take their teenage daughters and basically offer them up to other Frenchmen to then take their daughter in and buy her a house and take care of her.
That's ridiculous.
For like 200 years of conquest. Anne Rice wrote a brilliant book about it called Feast Balls.
Oh, that's what that book is about? I didn't know that. Wow. Another one I need to read.
Three people of color.
Wow.
Which was my dad's genealogy. But yeah, same thing.
Huh.
But this is like 16-year-old girls and 40-year-old Frenchmen.
Yeah.
But then they take care of them and give them a home, and they never have worries. And generationally, those houses are still in those families even now.
Wow. That's exactly. And this is something that is pervasive, I think, in many areas in our culture, where men take for granted sex in some way, or anything that has to do with how they associate sex, or fetishize it in some way, and they take for granted their position that they just deserve it or get it or something like that. There was an article in the New York Times yesterday about the Washington Redskins, A, change your bleeping name, B, that the cheerleader squad for the Redskins was on a trip to Costa Rica in 2012 or 2013, and were basically asked to pose topless and do all these things to become escorts for people who are season box suites holders and big money givers to the team. I mean, it was in the New York Times yesterday.
4 years ago.
And this is something that is like, and the cheerleaders were complaining, obviously, because they said this is not. Yeah, that's not. But that the men think of them that way speaks to, I think, the problems of misogyny that are all across our culture. Yeah. And in my opinion, it's they have to stand up for themselves, and in many ways they have to, because men aren't doing that. But they also shouldn't have to do that alone. There should be many other men who are saying, not here. Yeah, who hold other men accountable. Exactly. Yeah. Really?
Kiely?
Oh! And good always wins.
No.
Slytherin.
I don't think I've ever won this game.
I'll do what I can.
Yeah, right. Oh, thanks. Yeah, you're hustling me. It's going to happen now. Right?
So, you have to write. Yeah, because he's going to keep the first. Yeah, but look at him. And he's a hero. You have to write. You have to co-author a book with me and Vanya. What's the premise?
I have to co-author a book with the two of you.
Yes.
The premise is.
Relationships.
Yes. No. So what I'm thinking is there's an art museum in town that
this is good.
For some reason they have decided that all the artwork that they're going to present are only by male artists. Except that they didn't decide that consciously, right? They're just dumb about who they've prioritized for too long, and so we. As a little band of misfits,
should we steal all the art?
Well, I think what we do. What should we do? Yeah, so
we should totally Ocean's 11 it, and the night before their show, we should come down on wires,
steal the art,
steal all the art,
replace it with all
yes, with all female art.
I'm into that.
Let's do it.
Okay, this book is for sale.
Let's just do that anyway somewhere. Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
If you could shout something into the world and everyone to hear it, what would you say? No one could not hear it, and it would translate into every language. You get this magical megaphone, and you shout this statement, and the world hears it.
And the whole world hears it.
Whole world, even if they're asleep, it's embedded in their brain. Nobody misses it.
I wouldn't waste it. I wouldn't waste it with his.
From the obviousness of
nuggets. They already know that.
I would shout, but the problem is, could it be misinterpreted?
No, your sentiments will be felt.
Good, all right.
It's magical.
Love someone more today than you did yesterday.
That is beautiful.
I would say that because I think that's important.
See, I knew I liked you for
Bedazzled, ladies and gentlemen.
You were
Bedazzled.
You were
I need to
here,
put a
like...
We just need to put some rhinestones on.
Yes, that's right.
That's Brenda's new name, just FYI. He's Bedazzled.
Yes. That might be the sequel to our art caper. It's just an episode of bedazzling each other.
So, Atlanta really likes you because you were here before. I believe last year or the year before?
Yeah, I was here for whenever the ALA was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Last year.
It was last year.
It was last
Yeah.
year. And I can't remember if I did your panel or someone else did your panel, but I was here for the panel. But I remember since then, people have walked up to me and have been telling us how much fun they had at your panel.
Really? Here at Little Shop of Stories?
For that YA day.
With Tim Federley and Neil Schusterman. And
what a crowd.
yeah, we had a ball.
I was out of town.
I feel like I could be
I should remember this too. This is terrible.
I'm going to give you some jingle.
No, you've already stumped me here.
This is your second time. Is it my turn? Oh, no. Go ahead. It's your turn.
No.
No, it's your turn.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yes.
Well, that was like a positive, amazing bookish moment because people are like, "You were awesome." What was your one like weird, uncomfortable bookish moment in your career?
My one.
They're just gonna name it.
I'm going to write this.
Oh, be dabbled.
So I feel like I really have had a host of uncomfortable bookish moments. Sometimes they're just like, saying the wrong thing in public and getting caught or something like that. But really, one of the most uncomfortable bookish moments for me was in an interview where I was being interviewed at Book People in Austin by a sixth grader who asked me a question about literature, about name one character that has really affected you as a person and as a writer, and I stared this sixth grader in the eyes and had no answer for him.
Oh no!
And for a while was like stumped, and luckily John Corey Whaley began to take up. He's the best, and he started to answer, and then Jason Reynolds, who was also there, started to answer, and then finally came back to me, and I finally had an answer. But it was mortifying, especially because I was a high school teacher at the time. So I was like, and I'm a lousy teacher, person, and writer. It made me feel bad. That was a bad moment.
I will say this though, when I used to work here at Little Shop of Stories, we had a club called the Galley Club, and it was kids who read advanced copies of books and wrote reviews to let us know if we should buy it. And then part of what they did also was they would get to interview authors. I can't tell you how many authors told me that those were like some of the best interviews they've ever had, and some of the most original and interesting questions they've ever been asking from those children.
Yeah, I agree.
Was in the Galley Club.
I agree. Yeah, I feel like some of my favorite moments as an author have been being interviewed by teens and by children.
Their little minds are so fresh.
Yeah, I was at a school.
And honest.
Yes, exactly.
And honest.
The project that you're working on right now is one that you would hope to reach teens, I assume, right? So, yeah, I feel like I love writing for teens because of their honesty and their sense of courage. My gosh, look at the world today, and you see like the kinds of superstars who are waking up the whole gun control movement.
Look at them.
That's spectacular. Yeah.
On Instagram, and they're like, I'm in the street, marching around, walking out of school.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to see Congress.
Yeah. I'm asking the senator the hard questions.
Right.
And I think too, as a
I'm like,
a lot of
I'm
times we
busy
spend
on
time
Facebook.
like thinking about how to like what to say and how to react. While I think kids and teenagers are just like, well, I'm just gonna say what's on my mind.
Like it is what it is.
Yeah, they're
Exactly.
fearless. What do you keep doing here?
Just shenanigans.
You know,
Thank you.
I need to beat him.
Okay, beat him. And while you're beating him,
Oh no, you are gonna beat me right now. You totally.
you can block her.
No, I can't. Unless
You got it 2 ways. Oh, she's got it. She's gonna win evidence.
Oh. No, it's okay.
Fire!
I thought maybe she was going to block me.
Thank you for redeeming me.
What should I have done? How could I have won?
There's no way. Been here for like 4 turns.
Oh!
That's been free for like 4
I didn't even see it.
As we were saying, the youth
It's
are
okay.
brilliant.
It's okay.
Those old folks are totally blind and out of it.
I didn't see that either.
I'm Kim.
I'm Vanya. You've been watching
Bedazzled
Dazzled.
on YTL.
thank you.
Until next time.
Yes.
We'll see what game we'll play next.
Yeah.
We were really like stumped trying to figure out like what should we play with Brendan?